Hello. Is this thing on? What the hell is going on in chat? Ah, well. It is on. Excellent. Welcome to, we don't really have a good name for this yet. I just call it Mongrel Squad Reacts. And, we'll work on that. But, yeah, after last week's, therapeutic session, ranting on about, reacting to Morphologist's call to, what was it, nerf the A2? Or saying that it was overpowered. I thought that it might be worth making this a weekly thing. So, here we are. Now, what I ended up doing was I went to the org. I got them to throw out some suggestions on things to react to, and yeah, chose the top 3. I'm kind of glad that one of them didn't get into the top 3 because I was not looking forward to doing a reaction to that one. I'm glad it didn't make it. And Zoriel's only here for the funny faces, of course. Who's that? That looks like Doobs. Is that Doobs?
Yes, I am here.
Doobs is here.
Yeah, didn't you?
Yes.
Didn't you want me to be? Right.
Yeah. He was one of the, I guess, winners for one of the things that was selected.
Is that what you want to call us?
Yeah. You're a winner, Dobbs.
We're winner, guys. Yeah, let's go.
Winners. Yeah.
Yay.
Anyway, so we've got 3 things to react to. 2 of them are Spectrum posts. So we've got a text-to-speech reader to throw in. We'll see how that goes. If that actually comes across the stream or not. If not, then I shall read it out. And then we've got the video to react to. Now, everything's in the description of the video, this stream. So if you want to see what we're going on about, or read along, watch it, get ahead of the bloody topics yourself, feel free to. But yeah, let's switch over to game scene.
Can I get the links for those Spectrum posts?
Oh God, give me a sec.
I already have the peaceful ones in the natural readers. I need the other one.
I need to grab them. You're the one that linked the Combatant Ones, so I'm surprised you don't have that.
It was just something that I saw while browsing. I didn't bother favoriting it.
You didn't read it? Did you read it?
Honest, I skimmed it.
Oh God, I haven't read the Spectrum post. I actually saved.
I was like, oh, this is the contrast to the peaceful ones letter. This ought to be good.
All right, that's the Combatant Ones there. I'm posting this in Mongrel Squad's Gilded server. For those who are watching via YouTube, you can see it in the description. And then, where is it? This one here, which is a SaltEMike video, the 3rd one.
By the way, on natural readers, on the top of the UI, there on the right hand side, there's a words per minute slider.
Yes, I know. I was playing around with it when I was first looking at it.
Can we lower it down to 50?
No,
just so
I don't want to be here that long. I don't want to be here that long.
Just so they sound like really, really slow while they're talking.
I'm gonna fall asleep. It's already 1 o'clock in the morning for me. Anyway. Here we go. So this is a letter from the Peaceful Ones. Haven't read the post. I'm about to listen to it. Hopefully the audio comes in over OBS, because I haven't tested it with this particular text-to-speech reader.
Let me know when you play it, because I'll play mine at the same time.
All right, I'm going to play in 3, 2, 1 now. Give it a second.
Dear Sig, for some time now, we have been concerned about the direction the Star Citizen game experience is taking. Currently, we are seeing the peaceful content of the game being increasingly overshadowed by war, combat, and violence. This includes the big events like Siege of Orison, Jumptown and Xeno Threat, as well as things like more and more aggressive NPCs appearing over peaceful outposts and spoiling the fun for small players, for example with simple package deliveries. There are enough places in the verse where fighting is allowed and should be done. Apart from the events mentioned above, there are Carrier, Grim Hex, abandoned outposts, soon Pyro. That's okay, but please give the peaceful players more security outside these places. There is no absolute security, that's understandable. But you shouldn't be attacked every few hours either, if you want to travel peacefully yourself. Star Citizen has so far not given the impression that it is just another shooter game. Even if it is emphasized again and again that it is primarily about tests, and especially Squadron 42, and a lot of things are still changing and shifting, an appropriate balance should be strived for now in order not to exclude and scare away the peaceful players already in the current early phase of Star Citizen. But that is exactly what is happening at the moment. The peaceful players are strongly unsettled by the current development direction. Therefore our request to you. Please give a sign especially to the peaceful community more often that you also want to have and support the peaceful gaming experience and go against the more and more occurring reputation of Star Citizen as a pure shooter game. Sincerely yours, your peaceful sishers. Ensure are a few more suggestions that should already be possible with the current state of the game. Better surveillance, for example with more defense towers or increased presence of other security forces at peaceful outposts and in general in relatively safer areas. Quantum jump interruptions and raids by NPCs depending on a player's area and peacefulness, reputation. Outlaws and fighters, bounty hunters should be attacked more often than peaceful players, traders, miners, etc.
Alright. I've got mine set to talk pretty fast, but like, I'm just gonna go back up. So they say that they understand that there's no absolute safe space in Star Citizen, but they consider getting attacked every few hours as being too disruptive. Like, I don't know, like I play Star Citizen, you know, a fair bit, and like the only time that we're really bothered by the NPCs is when we're kind of just sitting around doing nothing. And I believe that's just CIG still tuning those probability volumes for interactions to try and make things a bit more exciting for players.
No, it's when you do those box delivery missions and you get scanned by CrewSec and they sit there and scan you, and they scan you, and you sit there for 20 minutes without the actual thing being completed because the game is broken. And then when you try to move away, it gives you a crime stat. That kind of stuff. Love that.
Yeah. Like in peaceful community, like, well, is this person just talking about PvE players? I'm a bit confused, like, peaceful community. I understand that there are going to be players out there who aren't interested in engaging in combat gameplay, so they're going to be more industrialists, or, you know, the explorers, or the players who will engage in farming gameplay and all that sort of stuff. But like, I don't see Star Citizen as a pure shooter game. In fact, probably the most developed set of mechanics in this game is mining, really. Like, even CIG started memeing on it in ISC when they, what was it, the last mechanic that they added for mining was the mining charges.
Yeah, the gadgets, a little.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, combat's pretty simple in, you know, its concept. Just add guns to ships and you should be good to go. But yeah, I wouldn't say that Star Citizen has a reputation as being a pure shooter game. Not if you actually play it. Maybe outside of it, but even then, like, that comes down to content creators engaging in the type of gameplay that they want to engage in, And realistically, mining gameplay is boring as batshit. To put one line in between other two lines until another line goes from 0 to 100. That's it.
I mean, I guess Star Citizen is a pure shooter game if you strictly play Arena Commander, but that's not the premise of this dude's fucking argument or letter.
So we started off with their suggestions and better surveillance at peaceful outposts and in general in relatively safe UEE areas. The description for Stanton is that it's owned by pretty much, it's broken up between 4 corporations that own the, was it the Super Earth type planets there? Except for Crusader, which is a gas giant.
Super Earth? I mean, I don't think any of those planets, except for maybe Hurston, would be considered a Super Earth.
Hurston and Arcor would be. Microtech, I'm not sure about. It's talking about size of the planets though, but like it's the corporations that are in charge of the security for those areas, and businesses are always going to try and cut corners where they can. So it's, you know, Stanton is not supposed to be, you know, like a high security space, which, you know, for lack of a better term for a security tier system, because there is none in CIG or Star Citizen. They haven't got a security tier rating yet that's established. It's like, you know, Pyro's lawless space, and then you got Terra, which is like full-on UEE space, and then you got Stanton, which is supposed to be middle of the road, but there's no scale, really.
What about the quantum jump interruptions and raids by NPCs depending on a player's area and peacefulness? So if you're a bad player, essentially, if you like to shoot people, you get interrupted in quantum travel more, Agens.
Well,
so people like us.
Here's the thing though, like, that doesn't work for piracy gameplay because we're looking for them. Like, we don't getting into fights against other, you know, like against bounty hunters, against security forces, doesn't actually achieve piracy for us. Like, we can't really, well, we can steal shit from them, but it's not going to make us a lot. Like, in comparison to materials or ship parts, or, you know, like hitting a huge shipment that's being moved by a cargo hauler. And if CIG doesn't want to, you know, for players to be able to distinguish between AI and players, then they have to be treated as equals. So why would a peaceful player get that special treatment over a combatant? You know, AI versus players. To be honest, it may actually work out better for us in the long run, like if they actually implemented that, because we'd have less AI to deal with on the pirate side of things. Like, we'd be able to go and hit players more frequently and not have to worry about pirate competition showing up in the form of AI. We'd only have to worry about other players.
What about this one, Agens? The significant increase or more appropriate realistic penalties for in-game crimes. So if we steal hadonite from a rock miner, right? Our computer bursts into flames. Your local police shows up at your front door, you know, puts you in handcuffs, and you get dragged into your local justice system, stand trial.
Well, there's a point that comes before that. I'll talk about that in a minute, but there's a point that comes before that, and this one here. When players attack other peaceful players, especially miners and merchants, NPC security forces should spawn as quickly as possible depending on the area to protect and support the peaceful player. These unfair attacks on minor players should become significantly more difficult and significantly more dangerous for the aggressor, and there should be a reasonable level playing field for the minor individual player by calling for help.
Fucking unfair. I hate that they use the fucking word unfair. Like,
well,
just go.
Like, this actually has a lot of upvotes. It's got quite a lot of upvotes there, 726. Like, this is literally a PvE player asking for no PvP. That's what this is. They don't want PvP. That's okay if they don't want PvP, but they want to change the game space to the point where it's impossible for players to engage in PvP against them. So,
Like,
they're trying to backdoor a PvP slider, essentially, or a PvP flag, but with their suggestions. And, like, I'm not against NPC security forces showing up to defend players, but I imagine that the speed that these guys would want the NPC security to show up versus the speed that I want them to show up are going to be significantly different. And the thing about this is that, like, we in Mongrel Squad, we work within the confines of the game itself. So we will try and work out how fast security reacts at different distances to, you know, like certain locations. And we'll look for those places where it takes security ages to get there. And that's where you'll get attacked. And you can sit there and cry and kick and scream all you want, but we chose our ground better. And why should you get the advantage of having security showing up because you're not a combatant type player? Like, this is like, I guess this is the equivalent of like somebody going to a bad neighborhood and going, well, you know, like, I'm not from around here and I don't want to fight people. So those people, you know, whoever tries to mug me, buddy, the police will show up faster for me because I'm not looking to start any trouble, even though they're going through a bad neighborhood. It's like, look, it doesn't matter what you are looking for or not looking for. It's going to come looking for you. And that's kind of the way that danger works. It's like, a lot of the time, you're not looking for it. It just happens. It comes to you. You know, like, we call what we do hunting for a reason, because we're looking for people to pirate. We hunt players down. So it doesn't matter if you're like in the middle of nowhere. If we really want to find you, we will work out a way to do it. And we have. It's what we do. But I do agree, like, there needs to be NPC security forces that react to players getting attacked. Like, that's just missing at the moment. Like, you know, when we're pirating someone, it's quite funny, actually. Sometimes we'll have AI security there, and we'll be in the middle of an attack. And for whatever reason, the AI security doesn't recognize us as combatants, and they start trying to scan one of our guys. Normally, it's the QED. And it's like, you know, literally, it's the equivalent of a cop watching a gang beat up on bloody some shop owner and pulling out one of the guys that's there and just, you know, checking their ID. But yeah, like, let's move on, because I'm pretty sure that, like, I just read this and it's like, this is all going to come eventually, probably not to the extent that this person wants, but it's going to come. Like, this one here, significantly increase or more appropriate and realistic penalties for crimes, especially player murder, and make jailbreaking more difficult. I always talk about this, is that for crime to have enough of an impact in game, the consequences have to be severe. Reward needs to be, you know, like, quite high, but the consequences have to be severe. Prison right now is a joke. You know, I'm not going to bloody try and water that down. It's literally a fucking revolver door with the way that the oxygen missions work.
It's a spa.
Well, it's not even that. It's like, pick up an oxygen mission, you may have to pick up a second one, but even if you've got a level 5 crime stat, run for 5 minutes, suicide back to the Habs, and then take the elevator out. In fact, now it is actually quicker to do prison than it is to go and clear your crime stat at a bunker or SPK.
I know. It's to the point where, like, I and many others will just log out in prison for the night, so when they wake up, they don't have to deal with it anymore. That's kind of like,
Yeah, and you're right about like it's so much faster to, you know, serve your sentence or escape even, because like the escape route, you can escape the prison in less than 5 minutes. Seriously, because like if you know what you're doing, the escape route it can be so quick, it can be so easy. I remember me and Nolat, I don't know if Nolat's watching, but him and I actually uh, did prison escape route speed runs. I forget our times, but like he had like a 4.5 minute run from start to finish. Like that's how quick and easy it is. So like there needs to be a different overhaul with the prison system, and I don't think the changes coming in 318 is enough. But you know, we'll have to see. I digress.
Well, like, yeah, more appropriate and realistic. Like, this is probably hinting that any time that you log out of the game, the prison timer stops. So you have to serve your prison sentence whilst you're playing the game. I'm not 100% opposed to that, as long as there's enough to do in prison to keep me occupied. But that said, if there's an escape route and I'm going to be stuck in prison for like 2 weeks real time, and I'm only able to play like 3 hours a week, I'm probably just going to fucking uninstall. Like, that's one of the things that I think a lot of these people forget, is that those people who are playing as a criminal in that game aren't criminals in real life. And you can't actually, as a game designer, punish a player in such a way that they don't want to play your game anymore. In fact, it's completely counterintuitive as a game designer to punish your players like that. You want your player to keep coming back and keep playing your game. And if you put them in a situation where they can't progress, or they've got to do something that they really don't want to do, and it's going to take them ages to do it, why would they want to keep playing? And that's why I'm not a big fan of like these people who keep saying, you know, like prison has to be served, you know, whilst you're playing the game. It shouldn't tick over whilst you're not playing the game. Because it's one of those situations where it's like, all right, well, that's great. Then prison sentences need to be reduced so that you don't end up with players who have a week's prison sentence, and then because it has to be spent real time, they're like spending the next 6 months in prison. Like, that's bullshit. That's not the way that you want players to, you know, be treated.
Yeah, and there also needs to be something tangible to do in prison, like more tangible things to do rather than just time investment, because time investment, like as you said, it doesn't work out it doesn't work out in either regard, with just the way it is now and with making you serve that time, or when the timer stops when you're out of game. Neither of that really works, or it's not good gameplay. So having something tangible, like more gameplay, more missions, more sandbox style elements inside the prison will help. Because like obviously I understand that it's prison gameplay is not supposed to be as fun as gameplay outside of it, because that would kind of be counterintuitive. You know, it's not supposed to be a reward, but at the same time, there needs to be more creative ways to serve your sentence rather than what we have now, and not just by, you know, increasing the penalties.
Yeah, like, the unfortunate reality for prison though is that the only real penalty that you can take away from players that actually impacts them is time. Like, you know, players get upset when we rob them, partially because we're robbing them of time that they've spent accumulating that wealth, and we're trying to take it away from them. And it's one of those things where like CIG is going to have a hard time balancing it, because there's just, you know, PvP sweats that are just going to be like, if I have to go to prison, that's bullshit. I don't want to spend any time there because it's taking me out of my game loop. I didn't buy Star fucking Convict. I bought Star Citizen. I want to go out and be my fucking, you know, murder hobo self and not have to suffer consequences for it. And the reality is like, if you want to do that, fine, but you have to suffer consequences if you suck at it. You know, if you get killed, if you get taken down, You're going to have to suffer the consequences of your actions, because the choices that we make in this game are supposed to be impactful on how we play it. That's the way it's being marketed. You know, like, you're making impactful choices on how you play the game that affects your character, those around you. So if you're going around being a murder hobo, you'll get a rep. But that also means that a lot of bounty hunters are going to start coming after you. And you're going to have to deal with them. And if you suck at PvP, then guess what? You're going to prison. Don't want to go to prison? Don't do the crime. That said, though, they can't make the crime too punishing, because it's gameplay that's allowed in the game. Like, it's part of the game. Being a criminal is part of being in Star Citizen. It's part of the gameplay that's, you know, permitted. So you can't make it so punishing to the point that players don't want to do it. So appropriate and realistic penalties, there's a bit of give and take there. All right. Reasonably increased costs for weapons and ammunition, especially in peaceful areas. I don't believe in cost increase. I'd say, though, there's a few things that...
and make jailbreaking more difficult.
I'd say that reasonably increased costs for weapons and ammunition, especially in peaceful areas. Like, I wouldn't call it a peaceful area, but you'd want, like, high security zones. One of the things that I still don't understand why we're allowed to do it is why we're allowed to fly into ports and rest stops with weapons active. Like, this is a real life thing, but, you know, ships don't go into port with their guns loaded. Military vehicles don't go into safe harbors with their guns loaded. They unload their guns. So they don't need to. There's people watching the perimeter. You're in a safe zone. They don't want you with, you know, weapons armed. If you go into an area with weapons that are loaded and ready to go, you're considered a potential hostile. So I really don't understand why we're allowed to go to ports, rest stops, you know, landing zones with weapons active. Shields on, okay. We shouldn't have our weapons active. They should be turned off.
They do have at the landing zones, well, not at like the orbital stations or the rest stops, but at all the landing zones like Lorville, Microtech, Orson, and in the spaceports, they do have a the customs area where there's supposed to be guards there that inspect your kit, whatever have on you, and then if you have any weapons or gadgets or any lethal items on you, they'll take them off you and they'll store them in some place before you can go through the rest of the spaceport and enter the city. That's the intention, but obviously it's not in game yet.
Well, that's when you're in FPS, and yeah, 100% that they should be doing that in safe areas. Like, they want to distinguish, you know, the safety of where you're at. You know, areas where your weapons have to stay in your ship versus where you have to put them into a bin or a locker versus, like, nobody checks, and if you pull out your gun, then, you know, you're going to have 10 other people pull out theirs. That's an indicator of how dangerous the areas are. We don't have that yet in FPS, but, like, I don't see any reason why that isn't a thing with ship weapons. So, fly into a bloody armistice zone, and I'll talk about armistice zones in a minute. You fly into an armistice zone with weapons active, security should be going, what are you doing? Unless your intent is hostile, you better power those weapons down, or else we're going to shoot at you with every single gun that we've got here, plus all the missiles, plus all the ships. That's after we charge you with a crime stat so that you wake up in prison. And the thing about this is that to me is a very quick and easy way of being able to, you know, like, help with establishing, I wouldn't say peaceful areas, but the armistice zones, that they have a bit more nuance that you actually have to consider. And that if you're going to cause problems in those areas, then people are going to know. You know, that guy's got their weapons active and, you know, they're potentially going to shoot me. Armistice zones are going to change, you know, a lot. They're not going to be this bloody whole, you know, like your character can't pull a gun out type deal. What we're experiencing outside in most around the rest stops and the ports, that's going to happen inside, you know, eventually. Like what Dobbs was talking about, that your character will either be able to, will need to deposit your weapons with security, or you'll be told leave your weapons on your ship, and if you come out with weapons on your back or on your hip, security's going to be like, you better get back on your ship and put those weapons away, or else you're going to prison.
Yeah, it's not. It's. I don't think it's probably also going to be like the major rest stops and landing zones, but I think that's also going to apply to the trade outposts on planets and moons where you buy and sell cargo, you pick up, you know, boxes, everything like that. You know, it's the removal of the armistice zone, which honestly I don't think those stop combat at all, at least not in the traditional sense, because there are so many ways people can exploit the armistice zone and quote unquote grief people by not even, you know, firing a shot. But getting back on topic here, like, yeah, the whole armistice system is you know, going to change, and like Agens said, you know, it's going to be significantly harder, or it should be significantly harder to attack people at those areas, especially when you're in systems like Stanton, Terra. What's the other one? I can't think of the other one off the top of my head, but yeah.
This last one.
Oh yeah, exclusive rewards for peaceful play, a peaceful reputation, and special rewards. By the way, I actually kind of want this, because if it's like he says right here, a prize for peace. By the way, don't we like that, guys? You know what I'm gonna do? If that's a physical item in game, like if it's a trophy, I'm gonna take it from them. I'll fucking wipe my ass with it, and I'll put it on the mantle of my own ship. I think that'll be great. I would love that. I'm all for that, Agens. Thoughts on that?
As long as I can steal it from them, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with any of these extra items that people, you know, get and all that sort of stuff. As long as I can steal it from them, or have the option to steal it from them. But,
I want like a trophy shelf, like a trophy case of all the peaceful rewards for me as playing as a PvP player.
This is literally just someone who's been an achievement hunter at this point now. Like, they just want achievements for, you know, doing, you know, playing the game the way that they want, which is entirely up to them. Like, your experience in Star Citizen should be based on what you want to do. If you feel the need that, like, you have to be rewarded for doing the thing that you wanted to do in the first place, then you either the gameplay isn't that interesting, or you're just being greedy. Like, that's the way I see it, is like you're just being greedy because you want to be rewarded for playing the game the way that you wanted to in the first place. There wasn't any motivation to do it beyond that's how you wanted to play the game, but you just want a little bit extra. I just look at that and I'm like, you know, I see this sort of mentality. Like, I'm not surprised now after reading the entire thing that it's got so many upvotes on it. Because this entire post is 100% about being a winner. There is no chance of loss, no chance of danger. This fucking post here, this is what I consider what somebody from Elite Dangerous would write. They've come from Elite Dangerous because that game's not being supported anymore. And they're like, I really like Star Citizen. It's got everything that I want in it except for this PvP thing. Like, let's start angling to try and, you know, edge PvP out. You know, like, it can go off to the side. You can go do it over here. We want our PvE servers, but we still want the economy to be connected. You know, like I want my solo server, you know, single player mode, but I still want the economy connected. I want all the reward without the risk. And that's what it is. This person just wants reward without risk. Because they keep talking about peaceful, which means that they're not only talking about avoiding combat against players, they're also talking about avoiding combat against AI. So they don't want bloody player pirates attacking them. They don't want AI pirates attacking them. And all they want is to win. All the reward without the risk.
Peaceful rewards, RSI spacesuit, completely made out of bubble wrap. Thoughts on that?
I think I made a meme a few years back about the meta bounty hunter arm, and it was like this it's like a bubble wrap jacket. Made of bubble wrap. I'll have to track it down one day. It's been a while. Alright, let's look at the top post.
Oh no, I'm not ready. Hold me, chat.
Alright, 168 votes. I fully agree with you. I'm not going to use the bloody text-to-speech thing. I'll just read it out. Fuck, I should have bloody checked how long it was before I said that. Alright, fully agree with you. Star Citizen is currently developing much too far in the direction of a combat game. They know that Squadron 42 is solely focused on combat, right? And a lot of the stuff that is getting pulled across from Squadron 42 is getting put into Star Citizen, so I don't recall any like you needing to mine anything in Squadron 42, but you know, like CIG doesn't tell us anything about it, so
yeah,
maybe there is.
It's not like the fucking protagonist in Squadron 42 that you play as is a fucking Navy combat pilot. Just want to throw that out there.
Catch you later, Siri. Yeah. No, I agree. Morph made that video, and I don't know, like it feels like his rant about the A2 is partially him venting and partially him trying to gain a wider audience within the community and generate more views. But we'll continue with this one. All recent measures seem to have only the goal of promoting the action in the game, whereby it is irrelevant that both PvP and PvE and PvP elements have been increasingly implemented. I understand the intention behind this. It's much easier to introduce such elements as they require almost no development effort, especially in the PvP segment. Give someone a weapon and you have PvP. I said this earlier, but the most developed game system in Star Citizen at the moment that we have that players interact with is mining.
The dude's probably talking about fucking Jump Town with like the recent, you know, the implementations of like PvP gameplay. He's probably talking about Jump Town and maybe Ninetales. But the thing of it is, it's like, yeah, it was intended to be a PvP event, but half of the time that you go there nowadays, it's a hug town where people have conga lines. It's like, I don't want PvE in my PvP event. These PvEers are griefing my Jump Town event. I don't appreciate it.
I'm okay with players doing that as long as they understand the consequences of their actions. Like if they want to fucking do it, if they want to do a hug town, fine, go ahead. When I show up in an A2 and bomb the fuck out of them, if they start crying, I'll just laugh. You're in a PvP zone, man. You know? You're in a PvP zone. Prepare accordingly. If you don't, you're going to get shat on from a great height. That's, you know, like people not understanding the gameplay desires of others or not caring, not being able to empathize with them. Alright, to continue. However, as the original post mentioned, this might scare off the peace-loving community that only has exploration, mining, or trading in mind, and Star Citizen drifts into a direction that was never actually planned. At least that's how I interpret Chris Roberts' original idea. Star Citizen should, in my opinion, consider both parties of peace living as well as a battle-orientated players equally. Unfortunately, this is not the case. Ironically, a system that is being focused on heavily is focused on the economy. And it's more orientated at industrial gameplay than it is at combat. Like,
especially when you look at mining, which is the most complete gameplay loop in the game at the moment.
yeah, like it really is. Like trade, the effective gameplay of trade has been in since 3.0, or correction, the effective gameplay of cargo hauling has been in the game since 3.0. Trade, on the other hand, which is, you know, based on the economy, has been suffering for quite a long time. But CIG is working on that. They've been working on that for years to create a system where players and AI will be able to interact with a simulated economy so that they're able to engage in gameplay that doesn't get scripted all the time. And this is, you know, once again, like this person, like the key phrase here, that's how I interpret Chris Roberts' original idea.
Dude, you want to talk about Chris Roberts' original idea? I remember reading a fucking pitch from Chris Roberts of this game back in 1998. And in it, he talked about player versus player piracy. So we want to talk about, like, Chris Roberts' original intent. Like, yeah, it involves both sides of the aisle for PvE and PvP. So it, like, I don't understand the argument of like, oh, Chris Roberts intended this to be like a 90% AI and 10% player ratio and things like that. And it's like, I don't know what kind of shit they're reading, but it's like things change and evolve over time. But there's also fundamental things that have always stayed the same.
Peace, and considering them equally, it's just gameplay at the end of the day. Like, the gameplay that we engage in is supposed to be the same gameplay that the AI engages in. So whether or not it's equal is another thing. It might be intentionally skewed in the other direction.
Little bit of a sidetrack. If you look in the OrgCom's Agens, Chris Roberts linked a tweet from Chris Roberts from 2015. And I think it'd be cool if the stream saw it.
Let's see, where will it show up? Stole 2 ships, was rammed by someone taking off while watching players come and go from Port Olisar, and was shot in the face twice at Korea. Oh, man.
That's my man right there, dude. That's my man.
Right.
We like Chris Roberts.
Let's go. Yeah. Close that and hit that. There we go. Like, Chris Roberts has said that he wants to be a space pirate.
Yes, he has.
So,
on more than one occasion.
Yeah. It was one of those situations where it's like, that's what he wants to do. The game is supposed to, you know, be playable by everyone. It's just not complete. And that's one of the problems that these people have. The game's not complete. The systems aren't all there. So they're having a Suki Lala and they say that they want their systems. But the way that they're pushing it is that they really just want all reward, no risk. And if, you know, you want to engage in gameplay that is PvP, then you should get more risk. I don't say that you get less reward, but they say that you should get more risk than them. To a certain degree you do, because you're not going to get sent to prison for mining. You're not going to get sent to prison if you're cargo hauling. But you have a chance of accidentally shooting security forces if you're doing a bunker mission. getting a crime stat and getting sent to prison that way. And that's engaging in the default gameplay for bloody, a combat mission versus engaging in, I'm not going to call it peaceful gameplay, but industrial gameplay. Alright, let's keep this moving, because this was one of those things I was worried about, that we're going to go over this and it was going to take too long. Regarding the suggestions, better surveillance with more defensive towers or increase of UE security forces at peaceful outposts and in general in relatively safe areas. This is already happening. Like defense towers at outposts, sure. Peaceful. An outpost is not peaceful or not peaceful. It's just an outpost. It's the activities around it that matter. Like, of course they're all for that. Like, they fully agree with this person, so I don't understand why they went through each point themselves. Quantum jump interruptions. Okay, they disagree, so they don't actually fully agree with this person. They actually disagree with them here. Quantum jump interruptions and raids by NPCs depending on a player's area and peacefulness, reputation. Outlaws and fighters / bounty hunters should be attacked more often than peaceful players, traders, miners, etc. I am afraid I have to disagree here. The frequency of raids should not be dependent on reputation, especially peaceful victims are easy victims and therefore naturally a higher prioritized target for possible attackers. The second point, that outlaws should be involved in combat more often would have to be implemented, in my opinion, however, should not only be the task of the players. So, old mate, the OP wants peaceful players with a higher peaceful reputation to not have to deal with combat situations, therefore they are less likely to get pirated or attacked. So we already know, like, what they would end up doing is that they would work their asses off to get the highest peace rating that they can so that they don't get any AI showing up. Players, on the other hand, that's entirely on us. The second point, that outlaws should be involved in combat more often, would have to be implemented, in my opinion, however, and should not only be the task of the players. So this is, once again, where the reputation system comes in, and if you have the type of reputation where you're a murder hobo and you're going around murdering everyone, well, you got a really high reputation for being a criminal. The order of things is that you're going to have a large bounty on your head, therefore bounty hunters are going to be attracted to you and want to take you down. So you're going to end up in more fights. That to me seems to be the natural order of things there. So, like, it's just not implemented yet. Planned for, but not implemented. When players attack other peaceful players... okay, so this point here, this is about bloody... security forces responding fast. Okay, an attack on somebody doesn't need to be fair. I don't know why they consider themselves minor players. Are they talking about kids, or are they calling themselves minor players? I don't consider them minor players. I consider them, extremely important and crucial to our gameplay. I don't think that little of them.
Our revenue stream.
Pretty much. Unfair attacks, like, we're not going to attack them when they got the advantage. Like, that's stupid. You're just setting yourself up for bloody failure. Then again, these are the type of players that don't want to hire escorts, don't want to have turret gunners. And then they complain about getting ganged up on.
You set yourself up for failure every single time.
Or, like, they'll fucking bring an entire party to Jump Town and then complain when the fucking single A2 shows up to bomb them.
Cut the man some slack, Agens.
a reasonably level playing field for the minor individual player by calling for help. I'm okay with players being able to call for security. Stanton is that middle of the road system in terms of security though, so it's not implemented yet. Planned for, but not implemented. Significantly increase or more appropriate and realistic penalties for crimes, especially players who make jailbreaking more difficult. Oh yeah, definitely something needs to be done here. An outlaw has almost nothing to fear, especially griefers who are only out to spoil the fun for other players but laugh at the sight of their currently imposed penalties that you can get rid of within minutes. We talked about this before. Here's the thing about this though. You can defend yourself now. I'm echoing in your microphone, Dobbs, as well.
I'm sorry.
You can defend yourself now in this game. A lot of players don't choose to do that though. And it is a choice. A lot of players don't choose to do that. And the fact of the matter is that currently there's bugs that send you to prison or can result in you getting a crime stat that results in you ending up in prison. 9 times out of 10, it's these players. The players there. The type of players who make this post. Who upvote 168 times for this. 726 times for this. Those are the players that end up with the accidental crime stats and then get upset that they're in prison and don't want those long sentences. You can't have it both ways. Prison, the law system treats everyone equally, which means that if you're breaking the law or the game interprets that you've broken the law, then it's going to apply to you just as it would a criminal player. Now, the victim may have extreme losses and losses for his hours of earned profit in the case of trading, or gets frustrated when you are shot again with a full load in front of a few refinery stations. The lawless griefers know the routes that a player living in peace takes to be able to show some success. You currently have no way to escape this due to increased number of players on the server. The likelihood that you can escape such people by switching servers also decreases. Like, if you're that concerned, I said this in bloody the last reaction video. If you're that concerned about your gameplay being ruined by other players, do something about it. Like,
Don't ask the game to do it for you.
it's not built to do that yet. Eventually, you know, it'll have additional mechanics added to be able to supplement that. But you're going to have to deal with the potential of loss. Agens Lenti from Starmarine Donny. Random question, is it better to have steak or chicken in a burrito, you think?
Steak.
Random answer, blue whale.
What the fuck did you just say?
I said random answer, blue whale. Ages lentil.
I don't know how to react to that. Chat, help me.
If I was going to have a
steak,
burrito,
though. Are we
I
all in
would
agreement?
say steak. Yes, I would say steak. But I was asked a random question, so I gave a random answer.
I said DMC said chicken. I want you out of this organization now.
It's too late. You already promoted him.
And I'm going to complain to you now, Agens.
Like, extreme losses and loses his hours of earned profit. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. If you're that concerned about your gameplay being ruined, plan for it so that it's harder for it to be achieved. And to sit there, anybody who sits there and says, oh, it's really easy to shit on somebody's gameplay in this game. No, it's not. It's easy when you don't do anything to stop someone from doing it. But it's not that easy. Circle jerk of mongrels. It is now, Mario, that you're here. Thank you for showing up. We were waiting on you.
Why?
Alright, reasonably increased cost for weapons and ammunition, especially in peaceful areas. Why only peaceful areas? As long as a missile is cheap, cheaper than the cheapest t-shirt to buy in the verse, something is fundamentally wrong. I agree with that point. To be honest, I think a lot of the weapons that we have in the game should have specific licenses put behind them. Especially if you're in high security systems. What does somebody need a railgun? A railgun for in Terra?
Yeah, so the EU guys could finally go around asking, hey, you got a license for that?
Actually, I got to look at one of the hits that one of our EU raider teams did recently charge a mining license.
Don't do it. No, I don't want it. Don't give it to me at least. I don't want to do it.
No, I'll do it. Alright, the last point. Exclusive rewards for peaceful play. Alright. Old Mate disagrees with this. This is pretty much the achievements for being a peaceful player. Here I have to disagree, because otherwise, also the violent players could rightly claim corresponding awards and rankings, even if there were some rewards for PvP combat in the past, like the CDF armor or the Vandal helmet. So the counter argument here is that peaceful players shouldn't get achievements, because then the PvP players or the combatants will also want achievements, and we don't want them to have that. I'd like to raise the issue of special PvP servers and or PvP free zones. Again, here as a short-term solution, we already have this. We already have PvP zones. They're armistice zones. You're not supposed to PvP in them. Combat is not supposed to happen in armistice zones. They already exist. Special PvP servers? Yeah, they're called Arena Commander and Star Marine. Those are the special ones. They already exist. No, Donnie, I'm not making that sort of claim or anything like that. I'm not. The question that Donnie asked was, are you currently attempting to grow your beard as much as possible until Squadron 42 releases? No, I am not. I'm not that stupid.
I'll do it. My beard looks beautiful when it's long.
Violent players will find like-minded people on appropriate servers and can continue to test the combat mechanics, while the peaceful players can test the other mechanics undisturbed. Star Citizen is currently still in a phase where there is almost no reasonable balancing, and currently the peace-loving players are clearly at a disadvantage. Guess what? Your peace-loving players are going to continually be at a disadvantage because you fly ships that aren't designed for combat. To be honest, I don't think any of the industrial ships should have weapons on them unless they're large enough to have turrets. You know, turret weapons, and they should be blade controlled. Like, it's designed, it's part of the design intent that industrialists require security. And security is not going to be kicking around in a fucking prospector. They're going to fly a military ship. A combat ship. This is literally another veiled attempt at asking for PvE only servers.
The peace-loving players yell so much toxic things. Yeah. Oh, there's a video on the channel. It's called Gamer Words. I don't know if it's still private or not, but go
It's
watch
still
that
private.
one.
Still private.
Oh God.
But here's the thing: we're still in a phase where there's almost no reasonable balancing. Balancing of what? Combat capability versus combat ships versus industrialists. That's intentional. You're supposed to combat ships with other combat ships. You're not supposed to use... Your prospector should not be able to fight a gladius. Now, they're not explicitly saying this here. But if you're after balance with this mindset where a prospector is at a disadvantage against a gladius, and you want to balance that, then it's either we lower the gladius's combat capability to be the same as the prospector, which makes it a terrible combat ship, or we raise the prospector's ability up to the level of the gladius, which actually makes a prospector OP because it can not only do mining, but now it can also fight it can fight combat ships. So why would you take a gladius when you could take a prospector and do the same job as the gladius and the prospector's job? Like this, once again, this is not the type of person that wants actual balance. They want reward without risk.
Man, I just want to crack rocks and listen to podcasts all day, man.
There's nothing wrong with that.
For that, man.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's how they want to play the game, fine. But don't complain when somebody shows up, blows up your ship because you weren't paying attention.
No, but I am complaining because I don't want to be disturbed, Agens.
Too bad.
I just want to listen to my podcast,
Eat a bag of dicks.
man.
Good on you. Listen to your podcast. Cry. You know, cry that you got killed while listening to your podcast. Pretty sure there'll be a podcast for you to listen to. Listen to while you're crying. That's
okay. I'm not an
help
actor.
you. Like, this post, even though it's got so many upvotes, like, the response to this is the game's not finished yet. But what you're looking for, you can already achieve to a certain degree if you engage other players in gameplay. Like, there are security organizations out there, and people keep saying, oh, but, you know, the security organizations, you know, bounty hunters, security guards, whatever you want to fucking call them, escorts, they can't make as much, like, we can't pay them as much as what, you know, the bunker missions are. We can't pay them as much as what the bounty hunting missions do. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Have you ever been a guard before? Boring as batshit. You're sitting around most of the time waiting for something to happen. Nothing happens most of the time. It's 90% boredom, 10%, you know, something happens. And the fact is, you know, like, if you're going out to be a bounty hunter, you're chasing down a target, you're engaging in, you know, combat, you're putting yourself in harm's way. Whereas as a security guard, the chances of you ending up in harm's way, whilst is a lot higher than not being a security guard, it's not going to be anywhere near the level of what that bounty hunter's at unless you're going into a really dangerous area. If PvE was a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would it be? It would be a mayonnaise sandwich with the crust cut off.
With some, like, soy.
Fat-free.
Like
no, nothing else.
No.
Nothing else on
soy
it.
Soy sauce.
No,
Thoughts
that's
on
too
that?
spicy. No,
Soy
that's too
sauce.
salty. It's too salty for it. Too spicy. It can't be. It has to be bland.
What do you mean too salty?
Soy sauce. Too much flavor. Too much flavor.
Fucking,
Mayonnaise, crust cut off, white bread.
no, see, Nolat says it's a coward sandwich. I think we can all agree on that, yeah?
Also, do you think ships should have beards as ship flair? Do the beards grow though? Like if you put a beard on your ship, does it grow?
Oh, it needs to.
Actually, one of the things I really liked.
You know what? It also has to play into the wear and tear system. So as you fly around with the ship, the beard gets gray and patchy.
Yeah. One of the things that I did like from Elite Dangerous was the ship flare that they had that you could put on your ships. Like the ones where it looked like, you know, you could have like the scrap metal and the bloody, what's it called, the spikes and all that sort of stuff, you know, coming out of it. Yeah, we added 10 months
Plus 10
to
months.
development.
Plus 10 months added to development.
That's okay.
Alongside bedsheet deformation.
Infinity plus 10 is still infinity, so we're okay. Alright. But yeah, like, this is a Spectrum post where somebody is asking for all the reward and no risk, and there's 725 other people who agree with them. They want PvE servers. Like, I don't know. I didn't track how Elite Dangerous's development went as closely as what Star Citizens has. But I would, you know, hazard a guess that it's posts like these that start pushing the game's development towards, you know, those PvE only servers, that single player mode where the economy's all still connected. Fortunately, the visionary of the game is the type of person that's like, no, I'm making my fucking game, fuck you nerds. You'll play it the way that I want. And that's it.
They need to bring back the hangar module and just rename it the PvE server.
The hangar module and call it PvE, so don't worry, somebody will find a way to bloody do PvP in there. Alright.
Yeah.
I think we've spent more than enough time. This is like an hour just on this one, and I was hoping to make this entire thing an hour, but let's continue on. Alright. And I guess this is the antithesis to the peaceful ones. A letter from the Combat Ones. How long does this... Oh, it's fucking small. I'll just read it out. Go away. What's this? Confirm. Alright, letter from the Combatant Ones. Right now, we PvP-orientated people are worried that the peaceful ones might get too much influence. Turns out that posts with Care Bear content get a lot of traction. That's fine and understandable in terms of participation, but in no way reflects reality. We PvPers are there too, and there are many of us. And above all, we're not all arseholes and only out to take the fun out of you as often as possible. Speak for yourself, buddy. On the contrary, we enrich your game with a factor that should be taken seriously, the real danger. A danger that you can minimize by preparing and training yourself, by making friends, or by buying some, or only by knowing the game mechanics. It would be fatal to downgrade this game to a pure PvE game. I'm afraid that's the suggestion of some scared players in this discussion though. But how long do you think you will still have fun playing? If you always know in advance that your mining run will definitely go through, your trade route is definitely not blocked when every single ship is bought and every inventory on every station is full. Do yourself a favor and don't whine too loud. It could end up being more boring and lonely than you would like.
Oh, the irony, Agens. I can feel it as if it's a fucking heavy blanket on my shoulders.
Like, I'm not going to upvote this because it's on a good number. Top post. Top voted post.
Now chat's gonna upvote it.
Now you're all going to
Just 'cause
ruin
you
it.
said
Thank you. 725 of the entire Star Citizen community is way less than 1%. For Spectrum, though, that's actually a lot of contributions. A lot of upvotes for a Spectrum post. The thing is that if you want to get the attention of the developers, Spectrum is one of the places to do it. If they see a post that normally in a forum where posts don't get over 100 and one's got 700, they take notice. They'll read it. Whether or not they do anything about it is another thing. Like, all this person is doing is just saying, hey, PvE Care Bears, don't bloody, throw out the baby with the bathwater here. PvP can actually enhance the gameplay. Somebody made it 70. Get fucked. I hate you all. Anyway.
Funny numbers gone.
There are investigation missions coming in 3.18 with no combat whatsoever. Here's the funny thing. There's already non-combat missions in Star Citizen. In fact, one of the first missions that you could do in 3.0, tailored, is a Kovalex mission. And you don't have to fight to do it. There's no combat involved in completing it. It's an actual investigation. You go around, you go look around. Find, data pads, interact with terminals. Then you find a package and then deliver it to a bloody wardrobe. Alright, Donnie's asking, you've had a rough week, you sit down in your chair exhausted but must go on, you crack open a beer. What beer is recommended when reading Spectrum? The beer that I recommend is rum.
Really?
Yes.
You had to be so fucking typical, Agens.
I like rum. It's not because it's a pirate drink, I just like rum. But yeah. Then you've got, what is it? There's another mission deploying the, space probes, where you take a little satellite thing out, a little satellite box, throw it out into space, and then activate it, and it turns into a miniature satellite.
I agree with Ben J. Hydrochloric acid. That's my poison. I'll take that.
I don't know, Dobbs. I don't think you know your drinks that well. That tells me that you might not enjoy that as much as you think.
Smacks lips. Yep.
Ego Main. As a non-participant in the recent letters from Thread series, let me say this. So he quotes them and then says, please follow your own advice. Fuck this guy.
Oh my god.
I actually hate these people the most on Spectrum. I hate them the most. They're the real fucking cancer of Spectrum. Where they sit around and they keep going and telling people, don't comment. Don't comment on Spectrum. Don't fucking voice your opinion. Don't say what you want about the fucking Star Citizen game. Don't contribute to discussions. That's what they're saying. Don't do that.
Incredible. I probably thought he was like so suave with that. He's like, oh, dude, I just smack this guy down.
Like, there's quite a few of them, and this guy's actually one of the fucking Spectrum dwellers that does this. There's quite a few Spectrum dwellers that will go in there and they'll do this shit. And the fact of the matter is like, this place, Spectrum, it's a forum. It's for people to go and raise their opinions, create discussions, talk about subjects that have to do with whatever the forum topic is. And in this case, Star Citizen. Literally, like, this is fucking karma farming if bloody, you wanted to bloody really look into it. Because they know that this is one of those situations that PvP-orientated threads don't get as much traction as what PvE-orientated threads do. Virtue signaling, I'm not a participant in the recent letters from, but you should do this thing that you're telling others to do and don't whine too loud. It's like, old mate's concerned. He's expressing his concern that CIG may end up listening to the PvE player base who doesn't want PvP in Star Citizen at all. And it's not an invalid concern, considering that there was another space game, Elite Dangerous, that did capitulate to the PvE crowd, and we'll look at where it is now. Well, here's the thing, Addy. You're saying he isn't saying don't comment, he's saying don't whine about stuff. People are going to comment and whine.
Like whining, and also like whining could be interpreted by like this guy could take any post that he reads that he doesn't like and just call it whining. So it's essentially like the whole. It doesn't really apply, Well, it's essentially saying the same thing.
When we give feedback, I'll tell you now, like when we give feedback about distortion mechanics not working or, changing in a way that breaks the game for us, we get accused of whining because we're like, hey, this thing's broken. What's going on? We haven't been told anything about it. And we get accused of whining. It's like, well, wait, we are complaining about something because no information was given about this particular change. So we're seeking that information. And what this person is doing is expressing a concern. Just like the other guys. They're concerned that their peaceful gameplay is going to be interrupted by too much combat. It's like, well, fucking, the game's not finished yet. There's going to be safer areas for you to play in, but that's not now. The fact of the matter is that there is a significant, well, I wouldn't say significant portion of the community, it's a significant portion of people on Spectrum that post this sort of shit. That will go around and tell other people, hey, shut up. Don't talk. If you're going to say and tell others not to do this thing, you should not do it as well. There's nothing wrong with expressing concerns. There's nothing wrong with making posts on a forum. It's what it's there for.
Well, you know what, Agens? You shouldn't be up here either on the top of your echo chamber.
My soapbox.
Talking about your opinions and just whining about other people whining.
That's right.
It's a vicious circle, chat.
Should round up all the reaction videos on YouTube. Go through them all and just delete the ones where people are complaining about something.
Yeah. There needs to be moderation on this, guys. What are we doing? By the way, you want to get SyncTube up for the SaltEMike video?
I'll do that in a minute. I'll have to do it off a different thing. He's saying, please follow your own advice. Don't whine too loud. So he's saying that old mate's whining, so don't do it. Follow your own advice and don't do it, so don't comment. Don't comment like this, Addy. That's how I interpret that. Don't comment like this. Oh, you want to comment? Comment the way that I want you to comment. And that's why I say, fuck these guys. Who are they to go around and tell other people what they can and can't say? Or how they should and shouldn't whine? An old mate is saying, don't whine too loud. It could end up being more boring and lonely than you would like.
I love democracy.
Oh, good one, chat.
But that's the thing about this, and you know, like Xperia is saying, Spectrum doesn't like it when people express opinions that they don't like, so they just tell them not to post that feedback, and that's every fucking forum in existence. That's the thing about forums. That's normally what they're there for people to post their thoughts, opinions, complain, feedback. Fact of the matter is, though, is that when I see people doing this, it's like, fuck you, man. I'll fucking keep commenting now. I'll write a bigger Spectrum post. And I'll do what I like to do and throw in fucking videos.
I'm gonna do something real quick. Curious. Dobbs is curious. Carry on, though.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a really short one. To be honest, like, there's really not much more to go into this. This is like literally just old mate saying to COG, don't listen to those guys too much because they'll ruin the game. And he's speaking to those peaceful ones and saying, don't cry too loud because you might actually get what you want, and turns out it might not actually be what you want. Addy, they don't say that at all. They don't say don't be constructive at all. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the more into that. The fact of the matter is that as far as I'm concerned, old mate's telling him to shut up. Follow your own advice, don't whine. Which, this guy's expressing a concern, interpreted by others as whining, by some as, bringing up a concern. Anyway, let's move on. I don't have SyncTube ready.
I mean, I could start it, but that would mean if you want to pause it, then I would probably have to pause it.
Yeah, no. Just give me the right window in a minute. Let me do it over here. SyncTube.
By the way, I hope you're playing music to play over the stream because I'm doing the same thing. Tell us what you're listening to.
Shouldn't be listening to any music. You should be listening to me and only me.
All right, listen, agents, don't talk like that. All right, don't be a coward. All right, you're not playing any music on your stream, so myself and others here are doing the same. We like that ambiance. We kind of like to feel more immersed in the discussion. How's that?
All right, let me see here. Where do I get the link to share?
I believe you just create a room.
Yep.
Put the link in there and then send the link to me.
What link? Is it the link in the address bar? You can tell I use SyncTube.
Yeah, just like I'm pretty sure it's just the URL. Yeah.
All right. Post this in. Let's post this.
Stellaris OST. Okay, Anta, I feel you. Right. Let's see.
All right, noobs. That's it there. You should have that.
Yep, that's me. Yep.
Cool.
I'm in.
Can I not? I want this to be full screen. Why is this not going full screen?
I can go full screen.
What? I don't like this. Why do I not have my control? That'll do. It'll look blurry. A little bit blurry, but that's alright. Who is this guy? I don't know. He's just some dude on... I think it's Twitch. This is from YouTube. I think he's on Twitch as well.
Oh, you know what? I know who this guy is. I think his name is Torque17 or something.
Torque17? Right? Yeah. I've heard of this guy before.
Yeah, I heard of this guy, yeah.
Give me a sec. He always complains. This is SaltEMike. This video was suggested and by Stonian. It was the third place video, which I'm really happy about because I did not want to do the video that ended up as fourth. But yeah,
Christ, dude, you guys are savages.
we've interacted with SaltEMike a couple of times, pirated him a couple of times. First time didn't go too well for him. He got stuck in a turret, then fell out of the ship and died. And then he just quit out of the game. Second time we pirated him, we pretty much wiped out his team, and then he managed to get a kill on one of our warlocks with a railgun. And yeah, the desync in that particular fight was horrendous. Carlos was duking it out with them in FPS, and SaltEMike pretty much went from being in front of Carlos like 50 meters away to attacking him from behind. This was back when the Cutlass Red used to let you respawn out on it. And Carlos woke up, pulled out his railgun, and shot SaltEMike in the dick and killed him that way.
Still one of my favorite Mongrel Squad moments. Like imagine you're walking around one day, just doing your thing as a mining, and then someone lands a Cutlass Red, and you walk on there to see what's going on. Like, hey, who's on this ship? And then a very aggressive Aussie man comes out from left field and just shoots you in the dick with a railgun. Imagine that feeling.
I don't think he really decided to do it that way. He just kind of finished a fight and then went to go in the Cutlass Reds because his ship got destroyed.
Oh, I was paraphrasing.
Yeah. So this is Mike. I don't know what he's reacting to or what this is really about. It's just everything is about to change. So let's just watch this and see what happens.
All right, guys. Of posts that I want to look at, but this one in particular I think is really important. This is from Dysonian on Spectrum, and he did or she did their homework. And check this out. So they went through and did some accidental crime stat metrics, and they went through and said the inventory of accidental crime stat situations, most common to more rare. Just crazy amount of effort here. Dispelling the notion that there are a large amount of criminal players. I've sampled over 10 servers, and Gameplay 7 servers ranged from 79 to 100 players. And each time I entered a server, I cataloged how many players on the server were on the bounty list. CS3+. My general assumption is that players with a CS3+ are intentional criminals, as it takes the same effort to get that high. Not necessarily, because if you kill a guard, don't you end up with CS3? But Discovery, server 1, 2 players. So this is like all the group. Impact on group play and new players. Group play is a liability unless you are PvPing. Other players doing missions like bunkers, especially if they're inexperienced, can accumulate accidental crime stat and ruin the session. Yes. Proposed changes on ISC will only exacerbate these issues. So this is around the proposed changes to Security Post Korea and the overwhelmingly angry reaction to it. And as per usual, CIG did not provide all the information needed. And that is kind of the problem here, right? So this is the post. Let's go ahead to Robert Space Industries and go Development Dev Tracker. And we'll see that he should have made another response to it. Here we go.
Luke Presley, my man.
Hello, Dysonian, and all that have contributed here. I want to let you know that there are some major changes being tested right now, which would see players with up to CS2 no longer lawful to attack and allowed to land at all landing zones to pay off their fines. Also, all CS2s will be payable as fines. We're quite confident this will work out, but obviously reserve the right to change this if insurmountable issues are discovered. I'll go into more detail on these changes when we are absolutely certain. Also, We have been trying to repro some of the issues mentioned in this thread, and though we're not done testing, I can report that we have discovered the source of some of them. Innocent players can be charged if other players self-inflicted damage on their vehicles. Should be an easy fix. Innocent players aboard a ship containing criminals can press charges against bounty hunters who destroy the ship. Not an easy fix, but we have ideas. This is a big one. This is a crazy big one that causes a lot of problems. Criminals can press charges against civilians who snare them. Should be easy to fix. I love the easy to fix comment, because is anything easy to fix in Star Citizen? Ship debris will not clean up, causing possible destruction to other ships. We think this is likely the cause of Ghost Armistice Zone violations. The bug is logged on another team. The gunner of a vehicle can give a pilot a crime stat for attacking an AI vehicle, and was found to be only the assaulting an officer crime. Should be an easy fix. We have also discussed possible solutions to non-criminal criminals protecting bounties, and we have had a few promising ideas. I've read many of the suggestions made in this thread and others, and while ultimately we will never be able to understand the true intentions of players and create an infallible system, I appreciate it could be a lot better than it is now, and I hope to not be able to spend more time on it. Oh, now I hope a lot better than it is now, and I hope to be able to spend a lot more time on it. There you go. So I think part of it there was that he didn't have a ton of time to spend on it, because I would imagine they were pretty stuck on theaters of war type stuff. But here's like my kind of feelings on the subject is it had to go this way. And the fact that people thought that they would put the system in and that they wouldn't go this way is a really good example of the trust that we have in CIG to just like do things that make sense. And in this case, they were either fully planning on doing this or were doing things that don't make sense, and then reacted to the community and were like, yeah, we're going to have to do something about that, right?
So I'm going to pause here because there's actually this is actually
Lots to unpack there. Yeah.
Well, this is less about the topic and more about the topic of the law system, and more about what Mike is just commenting there. So in software development, you have the iterative cycle for developing software, and CIG engages in that. And I believe it was the agile methodology. So the baseline for using agile for project management for software development is that roughly every 2 weeks you go through a cycle. At the start, your team will get together, you'll sit there and go, okay, this is a feature that we want to build out, this is the time frame that we got. You rate your features based on how difficult you think they're going to be. It can be done a plethora of different ways, how much time it will take, or just a rating score or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is that during that sprint cycle, after you've done your rating and you go through the sprint cycle, when you come back to it, you're supposed to assess the work that you've done and then determine whether or not you're going to continue with that feature, or you may be told that you've got to move on to another one. And in a roundabout way, the law system has gone through its entire sprint cycle and now it's coming back again. This was going to happen because CIG always intended for this to happen. They've been telling us this for years. They give us mechanics, they put it in our hands, they let us play with it for a bit, they wait for our feedback, they'll have their own ideas on what to do, but they'll want to see how players interact with it, and then when they are able to come back to it, that's what they do. And that's what we're experiencing now. Now, obviously, they've been working on this a lot longer than what they've let on, because they can't just sit there and go, oh yeah, in 3.18 we're dropping all this stuff, because it's like, well, they didn't make it the day before 3.18. They've been working on it leading up to it. And this, we're only being told about it now. But, you know, like sitting there, and this is one of the criticisms that I have about Mike in terms of how he talks about Star Citizen, but you also can't blame him. Like, he's done a lot better job recently in explaining his reasoning behind why he keeps making this point where you can't really trust CIG because they keep saying that they're going to do this thing and then they don't fulfill it, and then keeps coming back to that. And the fact of the matter is that it's going to keep happening like that. Like, software development in and of itself is a beast to manage, let alone, like engage in and, build something. There's no real tutorial that CIG can reference here on how to build, like a bloody first-person MMO universe. So they're kind of like winging it to a certain degree. And, like they've got to build a lot of their tech. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't remember, or they don't consider, is that they're not building one game, they're building two at the same time. Which is nuts. Most game developers will just sit there and go, let's just work, like if a team is working on a game, a team is working on that one game. And they'll work on all the features for it when they're done, until they're done, and then once they're done with that, then they move on to the next one. Whereas you've got with CIG, they'll have like small teams working on different parts of one game, and they may end up going across the other, game to work on different bits of that. Or, like mechanics and features that are able to come across from Squadron 42 over to Star Citizen, sometimes a team follows it, or members of the team will follow it. And when you have that many pieces moving around, trying to develop two games at once, there's going to be mistakes. Things are going to take longer than what they are. And the fact of the matter is that things are going to have to change. COG is lucky in that they have a huge customer base that is willing to play test their game as it's being developed, give them feedback and sit there and go, hey, this isn't working, this is working, or, like we found this bug here, like we'd like it fixed. And then it just comes down to COG going, like, how bad is this? Like, can we leave this fire going for a bit? Or is it like, if we don't bloody deal with this fire right now, it's going to burn the entire thing down? And that's what a lot of players don't understand. And it's not their fault, They're consumers. Like, we're all the consumer in this product. So we're not really expected to know all this. We shouldn't really have to concern ourselves with that. COG does their best to educate us on this particular thing, but the fact of the matter is like, it's normal for us, it's normal for consumers to want their product. But at the same time, you got to accept that for the scale of the project that's being worked on, you got to deal with the fact that it's going to take longer than anybody expects. And they're doing the crazy thing and making two games at once. Something that I like to do to remind myself of is that from where I saw Star Citizen at 3.0 to where it is now is like night and day. It's like two completely different games. Like, it is nuts. They've got a long way to go still, but the progress, when you look at it over that 4 years, is pretty, big. I've been playing Star Citizen a lot since 3.0. And I still notice that progress. You have to sit back and look at it. We have a lot of players, and Mike's played it probably just as long as I have. You need to sometimes sit back and look at the good stuff instead of, getting stuck in bugs all the time. That's what a lot of players don't do.
What's some of the good stuff that you see right now, Agens?
And some of the good stuff. Believe it or not, missions are actually working a lot better. They're scaling. Reputation actually works. PvE missions are somewhat engaging. Could be better, but they're not. But they're not as bad as they used to be. Player server caps have increased. We're now, anywhere between 75 to 120 players per server, which is...
Oh, old news.
From the baby PU where we only had 24 players back in the 2.0 days. And that was, 6 years ago? To today, where we're getting, 75 to 120 players. And here's the craziest part is that the server performance doesn't degrade that much in comparison to what we had when we first got 3.0 and we had 50 players on a server.
Ah, those were the days, huh, Agens?
Well, that's one of the things that people need to remind themselves of. You know, a lot of people don't have that perspective, though. If you've got that perspective, you're lucky. If you don't, then listen to the people that do.
The funny thing is, I was actually watching, because like I was doing my admin business for the org yesterday, and I was watching a lot of old Gamescom and CitizenCon demos from like 2015 and 2014, and seeing like doing that from time to time, like Agent said, it really helps put that perspective of how, like, it sounds like really cliche, and you know, whenever I say it's like, it really shows how far we've come, and you know, trying to maintain that perspective is also really important when you're looking at how the game is now and going into the future. And it's not to say that Mike isn't or hasn't done that, because I'm sure he has. I'm pretty sure he has a good, well-rounded perspective on the game. But you know, there is a balance that you have to achieve with, you know, keeping that perspective, staying grounded in the current product, as well as, you know, setting your expectations accordingly for the future based on what the development has been like getting to this point. So it's all about a balance, really.
Yeah. And like I always tell players that, like, people who are just coming into Star Citizen now, and they sit there and go, you know, what's Star Citizen like? And I'm like, if you're a glutton for punishment, you'll fit in. You got to be a glutton for punishment to play Star Citizen on a regular basis, like to put up with the bugs, to put up with the problems. You know, like with us, with how we do piracy, like, you know, mechanics changing without any sort of notice, looking for players, you know, circumstances being out of our control. Like there is nothing that we can do. Like if somebody wants the combat log, the best that we can do is destroy their ship. That is the best, and we are racing against the server to bloody despawn that ship. The fact of the matter is, though, is like, I look at a lot of the other games, and whilst they've got their, you know, like, they may be more complete, I just look at them like, it's only a fraction of what I get to enjoy in Star Citizen, in the incomplete game that it is. But, you know, I'm also willing to accept that there's going to be game-breaking bugs, like the current, Grimhex elevator bug, where you got dual elevators where one's invisible and spun around 180. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but once you learn how to work around it, and you do it a couple of times, it just what you do.
Becomes the norm. It becomes the norm.
Like when we had med guns, like, and this is once again another instance where, yeah, the developers sat there and went, we don't actually want that to happen. But at the same time, like, the community just cried. The community cried about the med guns and armistice zones, and it's like, in Grim Hex, the first thing that you did before you left your hab, juice up with Resurgia. Just pull out your med tool, juice up 100% with Resurgia, then run out.
That was literally the hard counter to anyone that was trying to fuck with you at the Ace House by drugging you and making you pass out. Just shooting yourself up with Resurgia before you leave your hab, and then you're good. At the very least, you're good long enough for you to get in your ship and get out of there and go somewhere else. You know, like, people, and it's not like we didn't communicate that either. I remember seeing so many posts back then, like, hey, do this and you'll be fine. But nobody cared, and no one bothered to try that. Instead, it's like, no, this is bad, and blah, 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 whatever. And I'm not going to say that CIG's reasoning for removing it is right or wrong, but like, the community weren't embracing. Yeah.
Yeah, but once again, you know, CIG's made their decision. There are ways of getting around specific things. You just got to learn to be able to, you know, roll with the punches, really. The game's not complete, and we're going to experience more fucked up shit as the development goes on. It's not going to get easier to swallow either. You know, imagine getting a Kraken and fully decking it out and putting all the stuff in it, and then you bloody, you know, lose control of your ship and it goes crashing into a moon and you lose all that. What are you going to do? It took you a week to set up that Kraken and you lost in bloody 5 minutes. I know about you guys, but after throwing my computer out the fucking window, I'd probably just go outside and find something else to do with my time. Yeah, let's continue on. Let's get to what Mike's talking about.
Right? So it's one of the two, but I'm glad we're here where we are. I believe these changes would be coming into 3.18 from my understandings in the previous discussion. So Security Post Korea is going to be the only place that you can remove your CS3 and above, which most likely you earned, and it wasn't accidental, right? And I think I have my own issues about it being Security Post Korea. I know what their intentions are. They want it to be this FPS PvP kind of haven, but I think that they've made a number of choices where it's going to be a 1,000 meter per second light fighter combat location. And they're going to be likely attacking players that may not be in a light fighter. So those are my thoughts that might possibly happen, but we'll never know until we get there. I think the intentions are good, especially seeing this. And I'm kind of curious what you guys think about it.
So he was talking about the way that he thinks that the gameplay is going to pan out, with SPK only being the only place where you can clear your crime stats. Now it's just really going to have light fighters just hovering around it, and people moving at 1,000 meters a second and hoping that they can get through. And this is once again, like, I'm going to say it again, because this saying not only like applies to those PvE players that I'm talking about, but it applies to every player that plays this game. Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. And the fact of the matter is that getting a level 3 crime stat, if it's going to be one of those things where it's like you knew what you were doing and you ended up with that crime stat, which means that you need to have planned ahead of time how you're going to deal with that. Now, some players are just going to be like, I'll just fly red until they send me to prison. It's like, all right, cool, fill your boots. Some people, on the other hand, aren't going to be like that. They're going to be like, oh shit, I got this level 3 crime stat, I got to get rid of it. Can only go to SPK to clear it. It's going to need a small army to fucking, get in there, take over the place so I can actually clear this crime stat. So you make sure that you have a small army to help you do it. Or another way of saying being a fucking org that's active, that has people in it, that play the game. Now, a lot of players who don't like engaging in group gameplay and are solo players, they're going to be like, well, what about us? It's like, well, don't get a fucking level 3 crime stat then, or just deal with the fact that you're going to end up in prison. Or, contact an org and make a deal. Get them to bloody take you in.
Like, the game is not as oriented or catered to solo play as it is towards multiplayer, group, and org gameplay. The vast majority of events, missions, ships, and everything like that is meant for group gameplay. And it's not to say that there's no gameplay or ships or whatever meant for solo players, because there is, but the ratio is more in favor of group gameplay.
There's strength in numbers. There's a saying, might makes right. And one of the easiest ways to gain might is to have numbers on your side, have more people. You've got a higher chance of success if you've got more people with you. If you're going to get into a bloody gunfight and you can take 2 things with you, take a long gun and a friend with a gun. This is just one of those situations where it's like the mentality and the understanding from CIG, I don't think is getting across to the community. It's like specific things you need to plan ahead for. You can't just go around now, you're in 318, and just let yourself get a level 3 crime stat and sit there and go, I'll just go to a bunker and clear it. COG doesn't want that to be a thing anymore. Like, I don't think people are picking up what COG is putting down at the moment here. You know, they don't, like, being a criminal is supposed to be hard, so how do you make it hard? There's only one place where you can clear your crime stat without going to prison. It's full of guards, surrounded by security. It's a fortress.
And turrets.
Sounds like a pretty good way of making, you know, being a criminal not attractive in one way. And that if you want criminal to be hard mode, then there you go.
Like, and I
Catch you
know
later, J-Dogs.
when that episode of ISE came out talking about SBK, myself and the rest of this org were like, cool. because like we have that mindset is because like we know it's like if we ever need to clear our crime stat, we'll be going in as a group and we'll be prepared for it. And we'll be able to lock down the area and do what we need to do until we have to leave. But I guess the majority of the outrage was not on SPK, although I do have my own issues with the new SPK rework as it is, but most of it came from the fact that you can't clear your crime stat at those bunkers anymore. Which was one, it made being a criminal easier, and two, it was more catered for solo players because you didn't encounter nearly as much resistance, PvE or PvP there. But the balance for that, as you know, Luke Presley said, that any crime stat that you have that's below a CS2 will be able to be paid off at those orbital stations, landing zones, and rest stops. And you'll be able to land at those places as well, which, you know, yeah.
Like,
lost my train of thought.
Well, Xperia makes a good point. You know, players in the community have been saying we want more consequences for being a criminal. And then COG adds it and they're like, wait, no, not like that. Because that affects us too. Well, guess what? And this is another point that I bring out quite frequently. There's no like PvP/PvE player. There's no criminal player / lawful player. It's just people playing the game, and you may end up as a criminal, or you may decide to just, not break the law. That makes you a lawful player. But if you do end up breaking the law, you're going to have to deal with the consequences, because that's what, a lot of the risk.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the risk results in. If you fail, if you fuck up, if you don't plan properly, or if you are going for something that's a lot more riskier, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences. So if you end up with a level 3 crime stat in Stanton, guess what? There's only one place that you can clear it without going to prison. That's the consequence of getting a level 3 crime stat. Don't want to end up with dealing with that consequence? Don't get a level 3 crime stat. It's that simple. It really is. Like, it just seems like, I don't know if it's a community or content creators, but they just don't seem to be picking up that message.
Only
Agens,
thing that actually comes to mind right now is, I believe it will still exist. If you are a player and, let's say, begin to cause harm to another player, let's say, for example, just casually shoot at a NPC or another player, you should immediately turn like gray, but you still, in this game, you turn red, where you should be able to be freely attacked. And that's the part that I'm not too sure about. We'll come back to the thread. There's some major changes being tested right now where we see players with CS2 no longer lawful to attack and allowed to land at landing zones to pay off their fines. What if you shoot at a player?
What this sounds like, so the crime stat system, when it was first introduced, was a heat rating. Like, it was essentially COG's equivalent of the star system from GTA. Levels 1 through to 5, though when it was first introduced back in the 2.0 days, it didn't really fucking matter the difference between level 1 and 5. Once you ended up with level 5, you had a bounty on your head. People could see your marker and they'd come after you. Now, the current crime stat system, it's still a heat rating. It's just depending on the amount of criminal charges you have against you depends on whether or not you're going to get a level in crime stat. So your heat rating goes up. And something that a lot of players still forget about, or they just don't know, is that there's two different types of criminal charges that you can end up with. You've got misdemeanors and then you've got felonies. Misdemeanors you can pay off at a fine terminal. Felonies you cannot. You end up with a hard crime stat rating. And the only way that you can clear that is by going to a security bunker, putting in your little crypto key, and then by telling the computer that you committed the crime because of mental incompetence or diplomatic immunity. Either or. The fact of the matter is, though, is that what CIG is doing here, I don't know, like, it sounds to me like they're just going to make certain criminal charges that you could end up with, they're just going to bump them up. So all misdemeanors will only get you to level 2 and they won't go any higher. That's fine. But if you attack a security guard, AI, or you attack another player and you hit them, the hostility system, which CIG introduced as a countermeasure so that players, if they accidentally shot a security guard, all they had to do was run away. They wouldn't get the charge straight away. Same with players. If you shot at a player, accidentally hit them, they would show up as red. And that's another thing a lot of people forget. Red does not mean criminal. Red means hostile. There's a difference. You would end up being marked as a hostile, but if you didn't kill them or cause grievously bodily harm or destroyed their ship, if you ran away, waited a period of time, however long that was, fucking random, I don't know the exact time, run away, let it cool off, you could come back, they'd turn blue for you, they'd stop attacking. Now, the fact of the matter is that the crime stat rating is still a heat-based system. It's just CIG is going to change it so that levels 1 and 2 don't have impact on your gameplay. Which, you know, like, it's talking about AI won't shoot at you, but does that mean that players can't send you to prison with cold arms?
What about crimes like aggravated assault and battery and destruction of a vehicle that right now only result in CS2, I think?
I reckon that'll get bumped
those
up.
Crimes. That's what I'm saying.
They'll get bumped up to level 3. And that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of players don't fully understand what this actually is going to result in. And to be honest, I think CIG is just going to bump up criminal ratings. You know, like you accidentally shoot a guard and you hit them more than once. Guess what? You just earned yourself a level 3 crime stat for assaulting security personnel. You didn't kill them, you just assaulted them. But because you complained about having to deal with a crime stat and, you know, everything shooting at you instead of, you know, dealing with the consequences of being a bit too trigger happy, or, you know, the game glitching out and putting a security guard in front of you where you're shooting at an enemy, which happens, you're going to end up with a level 3 crime stat, a bounty on your head, and the only place that you can clear it is either by cycling through prison or going to SPK. The fact of the matter is that a lot of players, I don't think CIG is explaining themselves well enough. That's a point that I agree with Mike, that he mentioned early in the video. But I also don't think the community has been picking up what CIG has been putting down. CIG has been saying for years, like, criminal gameplay, there are going to be consequences for it. It's going to be hard. As I said before, one location that you can go to clear your crime stat if you end up with a level 3 crime stat, or you go to prison. Sounds like hard mode to me. One place to go. It's full of guards, turrets, and bloody ships that are all going to try and stop you. And you have to fight your way all through that, which means that you're going to end up with a whole bunch of more bloody criminal charges against your name. And then you got to hack the system, and then you got to clear them individually. Meanwhile, you got a fucking marker on your head, so every other player, like wearing a bloody bucket on their head with a T-slit in it, chanting "this is a way," is going to be trying to come to SBK to assist security to shoot you and send you to prison. Criminal gameplay, hard mode, right there. I don't understand why a lot of people in the community aren't seeing that. Fact of the matter is like, COG's been saying it. Criminal gameplay is supposed to be hard. We're now getting it. The problem is that players are realizing now, well, they haven't realized yet, but they're going to really soon, is that criminal gameplay doesn't distinguish between whether or not you're one of these peaceful ones or if you're one of these combatant ones or bloody whatever. Because the crime system or the law system applies to everyone. So if you end up with that level 3 crime stat, eat a bag of dicks. Deal with the consequences. When I saw these changes, I'm like, alright, they've just, made it harder, not impossible. Should solo players or small group players, be catered for in this regard? Don't think so. Come up with more inventive ways of dealing with the problem. One of the things that I know that we'll probably end up doing in Mongrel Squad is we will lock down SBK and then charge entry for those who have level 3 crime stats. If you want to clear him, buddy will pick you up. You come here, clear your crime stat, and fuck off. You make money off that. It's the advantage of having an organization and being a larger group. Peacefully attacking. I wouldn't say that we're being peaceful. Alright, let's continue this.
Certainly I'm not.
Do you not become available to attack until you've killed another player? Should there be a grace period where if you did make a mistake, you are able to shoot at that player? And then, so let's give an example of, I decided I wanted to get stupid and shoot at Red Lear, who's in the chat, and I did some damage to a ship, but I didn't blow it up. Maybe I get a CS1 or a CS2 for that. And in this scenario, what's being said here is that I would not be able to be attacked. So I think yeah, like I'm assuming that the rules are the same, but I don't know because it sounds like they might be changing. But again, assuming the rules are the same, you should be able to shoot the player, but you might not be able to send them to jail. And they should.
All right, so this is a lot of speculation. A lot. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I think they're just going to bump it up. They'll probably make the grace period, because that's what we already have. A grace period where you accidentally shoot someone. They'll probably make it a bit more forgiving so that you can, instead of it being 1 or 2 shots, it can be like, 3 or 4. As long as you don't kill the player or down them or cause major bodily harm. Because the system, like the game is already designed to handle that already. So if it's already designed to handle like detecting how much damage you've done to a ship, how much damage you've done to a player entity or an NPC entity, because there's really the only difference between an AI and a player character is who's in control of it. The system's already designed to detect who has done what damage to what part of a ship or player or character. So the lore system determining whether or not you're being an actual hostile versus, accidentally shooting someone only needs to be a small amount of, shots going down range and hitting that entity, and then you stopping, making a conscious decision, oh shit, I shot the wrong person, I shot the wrong ship, stopping, getting the fuck out of dodge because you just activated the hostility timer, get out of dodge, wait to cool off, come back in, everything's fine. Don't end up with a crime stat, don't end up with a criminal charge. Versus you accidentally shoot someone enough that they've taken enough damage that their arm is now useless to them. That would be grievously bodily harm. Whether or not that ends up being a level 2 crime stat or a level 3, that's up to CIG. But if you kill an AI, for example, or you kill another player, that's definitely going to get you the level 3 crime stat. It already does that now. I honestly think that CIG is just going to bump it up. You cause damage to a limb, you're going to get a level 3 crime stat. That's the way I see it. Because bloody... like...
Basically, any violent action towards another player.
Entity, like a ship, AI, player, like, doesn't really matter in that regard. But here's the funny thing is that if they don't do that, what you could do is if you've got 4 friends, or even 6, is get them to pick a limb each on another player, and they just damage that limb enough that they only end up with a level 2 crime stat. One of those players is probably going to end up with a criminal charge or a level 3 crime stat because they're going to be the last one that applies enough damage that causes that player to bleed out that they get charged with the murder. But you could grief someone by exploiting that, gap in the lore system. For example, you want to slow someone down, shoot their legs, give them tier 3 injuries. They end up bloody, either crawling or they may be limping severely. You and your mate do that. You take out a leg each. You both only got level 2 crime stats. You walk over to the fine terminal, pay the fine. Old mate, who's got crippled legs, still dealing with the consequences of that. Which is why I think they're going to bump up the criminal rating for certain charges so that it's like doing any sort of damage, as Dobbs pointed out, doing any sort of damage to another entity is like if you're being hostile intentionally, which if you've damaged a limb, pretty clear that you're being hostile at that point, or you're being extremely negligent, in which case you're learning a lesson. Welcome to hard mode.
That being said, though, it's also tough too for the law system to declare intention, because like you and I both know and have been in situations where we'll be flying together and then somebody accidentally bumps into your ship and then that's registered as an unlawful violent crime when it actually wasn't. It was an accident. So it like I don't know if CIG has the ability to
No, they don't. Like it's an automated system. Yeah. There's a reason why we have the courts in real life. We have judges, we have courts, we have lawyers. There's an entire like career profession around law within all civilized societies, because you can't have a computer determining whether or not someone did something that was right or wrong.
So what you're saying is, Agens, space court.
Yes, we're going to get space court. All the Care Bears are going to be the judges, jurors, lawyers. They can't be the executioners though, because they're all peaceful. So they'll probably just put you in a prison and leave you to rot.
EMPs are emotional damage.
That's the best that they can do at the moment.
True. Wow. That's the hot take of the day. Fuck everything else.
All right. We've got like a minute and a half left.
Be able to give you any sort of criminal rating either. Then, and it should be for like a 10-minute period or a 5-minute period of, and that should continue to reset every time they continue to do damage to people in the area that are lawful, right? And that's just kind of how I see it. But yeah, I'm kind of curious what you guys think. I'm really excited for the security post Korea thing because I think it's going to funnel people to one place. I'm just worried that it's going to be mostly ship combat when I think the intention is for it to be FPS combat, but we'll see. And yeah, again, curious what you guys think. This will most.
There's a comment that Icy Jones makes here, which is really, once again, leans into how the system can be exploited, which is why, once again, I think it's just going to bump up in terms of consequence. And he says, I will then just shoot this one player 0.1 seconds before you, so when your shot hits, he dies and you get a crime stat level 3.
Kappa.
If it can be conceived, somebody will try and perfect it. And they will, if
I feel like
it
there's always
causes a
gonna be-
negative reaction, they will just do it for the lols. Go ahead, Dobbs.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, I feel like there's always going to be ways like that to exploit the law system. Like, they'll never be able to create a robust enough system to prevent that kind of exploitation, like Icy Jones is describing.
Like, we can already get minors, like, you know, we don't do it, but you can already, like, get crime stats on minors by just flying into their beam.
Yeah.
That's already a thing.
That's dumb. And also, I can't tell you how many times I've done like a several hour play session of Star Citizen doing piracy, but I've not been able, I don't walk away with a crime stat at the end of the night. And I'm the one doing the shooting and killing and boarding and fucking doing all that shit.
Well, you know, they have to stick around to actually charge you, so when they combat log, they can't charge you with the criminal charges.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like, it's their fault. You know, if they stuck around long enough to charge you, you know,
I mean, it's nice.
you'd end up with that crime stat, but they don't want to do that. Right, let's finish this video.
Most likely become a YouTube video. So as always, YouTube comments suck. I'm doing this live on Twitch. It's way easier to have a conversation with you guys here on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, or on my Discord, discord.gg/SaltEMike. So stop by, say hi to YouTube, Twitch chat, and stop by, say hello, and yeah, if you're interested in one of these topics, maybe we'll discuss them with you on Twitch or in Discord. So thanks for watching, and yeah, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, and thanks for watching. Appreciate it. All right, guys.
All right. To the face cam. So that's pretty much it. There was quite. I think the first one just took way too long. The letter from the peaceful ones.
Well, you done did it now, Agens. Look at what you've done.
Yeah. Like,
While you're laying in... Right.
I wasn't too impressed with it. Like, it just was a Care Bear whining, really.
Yeah, you guys
That's
need to
what it
submit better
was.
stuff.
It was really a Care Bear just whining. I want more Care Bear. I want Star Citizen to be more Care Bear. It's like, I would say that the formatting was a lot of a lot better standard than what you would normally get. But yeah, like just Care Bear just wanting to be a Care Bear. You know, wanting more reward with no risk. Essentially try and push try and push the servers from, you know, being a PvA or PvPvE to being PvE, and then just having PvP in small arenas. It did catch a lot of traction, but like, once again, I just look at it, it's like, it's really just 725 players that didn't know what they'll bind themselves into. That's what I see. Hopefully CIG sees it that way too.
Not to mention all the other millions and millions of backers. Apparently.
To be honest, I think CIG needs to do a better job communicating with the community that what their intent is with certain design decisions that they're making, like, you know, security post Korea. Being the only place where you can clear a crime stat. Being a criminal is supposed to be hard. How do you make it hard? Make the only place that you can actually clear your crime stat without going to prison in the middle of a fortress. You know, solo players will sit there and go, that's impossible. And it's like, yeah, no shit, it's impossible. You're not supposed to be a fucking solo criminal. Solo criminals don't succeed. You need to be a part of a team, part of a group, part of a crew, part of a gang, part of a family. You know, organized crime is not achieved by an individual on their own. It is a group effort.
Wow.
That's what a lot of players are just going to have to learn. And it is what it is. Part of a squad, yeah, no lad.
A Mongrel Squad. There, I said it. You like it and all that? You like that shit?
We have a bit more hardcore gaming. It's nowhere near hyper-realism. Well, hardcore and hyper-realism aren't both the same. Because hyper-realism would be the type of thing where, you know, when you're refueling your ship, somebody's got to come out with a hose and plug that in. You know, guys are going to come out with missile carts to put your missiles back on, and somebody's loading your ballistics back up, cracking ammo tins and all that sort of stuff. Like, if you want something where hyperrealism starts affecting gameplay, Cargo Refactor is a really good example of that. Players loading their own. I knew that was going to happen. Players loading their own ships. Players loading their own ships is going to affect, you know, gameplay. The time that it takes for a player to, you know, go to an outpost, buy their cargo, put it on their ship, fly it to the next place, take it off their ship, put it onto the bloody area where they're going to sell it, and then sell it. Like, the shortest period of time is probably going to be them flying from the outpost to where they're going to sell. Next minute, pirates show up halfway through the thing and they're bloody screaming that, you know, this is bullshit. There's 10 years against me. You know, I'm just trying to be a peaceful player flying through space. I just want to bloody deliver my space boxes. I just want to move my box from A to B. Now you assholes show up and you're ruining my game. It took me like half an hour to load this ship. It's like, well,
that's just too goddamn bad, isn't it?
You know, welcome to Star Citizen. You know, welcome to Fidelity. Welcome to, you know, a game where there's consequences for, you know, actions, and your consequences right now that you're suffering come from you not preparing your security well enough.
You're not, and the whole argument behind being completely defenseless is so fucking bullshit.
Even if you're by yourself in a cargo ship, you can't tell me that you're fucking defenseless and there's nothing that you can fucking do, because I'll fucking look at you and laugh if I hear you say that, because there are so many precautions that you can take. There are so many things that you can do to make it harder for the people attacking you and trying to take your stuff. I can think of a million different ways to fucking prevent that from happening, even if you're solo. So to sit there and say that you're completely fucking defenseless and you can't fucking do a thing, you're fucking wrong. I don't care what you say.
We're supposed to plan ahead of time. We do it. Like, we plan ahead of time. It's not like we just show up and we're like, oh, I'll just fly the Warlock today. Oh, I feel like just flying a, Mantis around. Oh, look. Hey, there's a cargo hauler over there. It's like, no, we plan an event. We show up at a specific time, at a specific place. We appoint a leader.
Train beforehand.
This is the event. But yeah, we do training. We practice our skills. We learn how to, we teach people how to use EMP, how to use QED, how to position a ship for a boarding action, where you need to go if you're performing the boarding action. We teach and practice these skill sets because it helps us when we have actually got to do it against another player. For cargo haulers, there's stuff that they could practice, but they choose not to. It's a choice. They don't play with their friends. They like to just solo truck. They complain that, security costs too much for them. It cuts into their profits. And it's like, well, like you can either have 100% of nothing or 10% of something. %100 of nothing is still nothing.
Also, it's not really applicable right now, but it will be in the future. But there will also be an investment for pirates to go out there and take cargo hauling ships. Like all the ships that would need to go fly there, all the fuel that it costs to get there, all the weapons and repair costs, after injury payments for them, for Marines that get on board the ship, all the logistics and time put into doing that. Like it's not as if we will show up there with stuff that we just grabbed 5 minutes ago and fucking go and take your shit. It's like, no, there's a lot of stuff that's going to have to end up going into it, and there's going to be just as much, if not more, investment from the pirate side of things than the fucking cargo hauler. So to sit there and say that the game is like catered towards people like us, it's not. It's not. There are so many things that are going to make it tough for us to go catch our prize.
And then there's the consequences that we've got to deal with. Now with SBK in 318 becoming the only station where we can clear crime stats, if, going to prison is a pain, which I wouldn't be surprised if CIG increases the sentences again. Would not be surprised at all.
I wouldn't be super mad about that either. Like, place like
you say that now.
Needs to have.
Like, the thing about this though is that part of our preparation, part of our planning is having the right equipment, but also understanding the consequences of our actions and making appropriate plans to reduce the risk. So if the chances of us ending up with level 3 crime stats is high, and we don't have the numbers to go and clear SBK so that we can clear our crime stats, then we're going to have to, take other measures. So we either attack people outside of the armistice zones, outside of the comm arrays, or we make sure that we take the comm arrays down. This is all shit that we already do in the game. We can already do. We don't really need to worry about comm arrays that much because it's like, well, it is what it is. Level 3 crime stat isn't that big of a deal other than having a marker on your head, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass, but a lot of bounty hunters are just lazy and all you have to do is just jump away a couple of times and that's it. They'll stop chasing. Because instead of being prepared and showing up with ships that can actually prevent you from running away, and friends in ships that will send you to prison, they just show up in their PvE combat ship and just expect you to stay still long enough for them to destroy you. But yeah, that first Spectrum post, I wasn't too impressed. Once again, PvE player just being a Care Bear, wanting more PvE. More reward, no risk. That was it. Second one was just essentially one guy telling CIG, hey, don't listen to that other guy that's saying that they want more reward with no risk. And then also then telling all the peaceful ones that, hey, you know, be careful what you wish for, because you may actually get it and you're probably going to find it's going to be shit. And then that last one was just, it just raises more questions than anything else. But I guess the biggest points that came out of, you know, that I have for SaltEMike's video is that the game's not finished yet. CIG's still developing it. The way that it's being developed is pretty stock standard for software development. And the fact of the matter is that it's an unpredictable thing. Shit's going to happen. People make mistakes. Stuff's going to go wrong. You know, bugs are going to break. You just got to learn to deal with it. And that, you know, I reckon CIG is going to bump up the criminal rating for a lot of hostile, you know, actions that you take against other players or NPCs. You're going to bump them up to the level 3 crime stat so that, you know, players have to be more cautious with how they behave. And I'm okay with that. Anyway, this stream has been going for 2.5 hours now. Thank you all for watching. I don't know when the next stream is going to be. It will be next week. For the content that we'll be reacting / ranting about, that'll come from the org. Pretty much I get them to throw things up throughout the week, and then we'll get them to vote on a selection of those topics or content, and then I'll pick the top 3, and then we'll come in here and react to them. I invite those who actually, whose content actually gets, you know, in those top vote positions. I invite them along to the stream. They can come if they want to. They don't have to. If they do, they can react along and provide their input. If not, then it'll just be me and my talking head. Dubs will probably drop in when he can. Yeah. Next video going out is going to be this Friday. I'm going to space them out a bit more, so that our piracy hits still go out. So essentially the goal is to do 2 videos a week. One will be a piracy hit and the other one will be pretty much this. But yeah, like, we have a huge backlog of hits. Some of them probably won't end up on the channel, but there's actually quite a few good ones that we want to put up there. It's just not enough time in the day, and got to be a responsible adult with my real life job.
Yeah, we've been hitting the trade lanes as of late, my friends. It's been it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it turns out when Ninetales, Siege of Orison, Ninetales Lockdown, Xenothreat, or Jumptown, when those things aren't running on 100-player servers, there's fucking targets everywhere. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Next stream, I'll put an announcement out when it's going to be, similar to this one that I put out today, and we'll do some more reactions then. Thank you all very much for watching. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Helps with the YouTube algorithm determining who else they can try and fob our videos off onto. Like the video as well for the exact same reason. If you want to throw the notification bell, feel free. If not, don't. But yeah. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next stream.